It all continues as we pray to the computer gods one more time that everything will work out. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend as we get the motor going here. Getting the motor going from our laptop here in Berlin, Germany, Artist Journal, March 25th, 2024. Broadcasting from the spark that gives me life. From that unknown place where this all comes from, welcome back. There is no take two. That is another way of putting it. Of course there is in this business, but, it is a fun way of thinking. I'll never forget, once I had a kind of a medical concern, and we don't need to go into it, but that was about 10 years ago, and nothing happened. I'm thinking of my mom watching this thinking, oh my God. And it was just like the doctor being overly precautious and just saying, oh, we should do tests for this and that. And I'll never forget, I really lived those 3 weeks where there was this kind of, hyped up concern. And that is what that makes me think of when I say there is no take two. I mean, all of a sudden, I, had a girlfriend within a week and everything. It was kind of it's kind of interesting. The mental game is everything to a large degree when you are living. And what's beautiful about it, it's the one thing, as long as you're basically in a free society, I guess I'd qualify that with, it's the one thing, maybe even if you're not in a free society, but I can't say that because I had the privilege of living in free societies. It's the one thing that can't be controlled. Right, and you could make the argument. I'm not going to make the argument that even in under difficult circumstances that can't be controlled. Who knows? Especially these days. I was just looking at the Elon Musk tweet, first ever post made just by thinking. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe I'll bring that up too. I thought, I'm trying to reduce the size of this show, not expand it into Neuralink. But these are kind of big things like that do matter to us. Because, of course, we're engaged on people make art for different reasons, right? Some people make art to make a pretty picture. Some people make art as a kind of philosophy. I would argue that's the majority of what we see. That's the stuff that we tend to remember. At least I would say, you could say, well, how's Warhol philosophy? The whole idea of making a process. And again, pray to the computer gods here on this Monday morning. The whole idea of having a process and where, random paint underneath, screen print, maybe black or blue or whatever the color is, pink over top with the screen print, maybe doing whatever else, to kind of oversimplify a Warhol. And then just, the assistant can do it. I would argue that's kind of a philosophical endeavor. It's starting to go, look, it's not about me as an artist painting the perfect arm, and then you're going to, it's more about the process, which I'd argue is inherently a bit more philosophical. And it's this, I would argue, to go on, this idea-based art that is largely celebrated, rightly, I would even dare say, in the museums. To overgeneralize. Now, I think the museums, as we've discussed before, are probably, if not completely, way too conservative in their mindset. I would argue. That would be my criticism of museums. Having gone as a spectator, going to museums pretty regularly, it feels like a overly familiar place to a certain degree, an overfamiliar state of mind, a place where are you really surprised? Maybe where there are little surprises, but where it doesn't seem, and again, overgeneralizing and everybody's experience is different, but it's no longer a place that you're necessarily going to be shock and awe, where you're all of a sudden going to have a huge surprise. Now, they are museums, so perhaps that is not the function of a museum. Maybe that's the function of a gallery. Anyway, we have gone long here in our intro, and let's continue with this gorgeous work here. We've been looking at Santiago's work, I don't know, probably since the second month of this show, I'm thinking, and this show's been going for over a year and a half. When did we start? August 2022, and we're in March. So we're over a year and a half. So about a year and a half, we've been looking at Santiago's very consistent body of work in this exploration of abstraction. And so here, I feel like we've hit another, a new kind of plane here, and we've been noticing it over the last couple of weeks, this introduction of AI, and it seems like collage. AI and collage, as the description says, and let me show you here. This is on Foundation. This is on Foundation. We'll leave all the other thoughts on museums just unfinished there. We'll just leave it hanging because, of course, I don't necessarily have any conclusions here. This is an exploration. This is a coffee conversation here. This is morning coffee with your friend Adrian over on YouTube or Twitter. This was my only heart. So again, it feels like, and I have to say, since we're on Santiago for the beginning of this show, I want to say one of the great writers here in this space. If you look at the titles, and I'm kind of big on titles, it is, they're really good. And I'm not sure, I assume actually, because they're so good and so consistently good, that AI is a factor here, as it is in the art. And I think I remember maybe Santiago mentioning that, maybe in a space over a year ago. So this was my only heart. It's good, it's poetic. Collage of AI outputs. AI outputs that came from blending my drawings made with a P5JS and ChatGPT drawing tool. And this is another, subject matter that we've discussed, which is P5JS and a ChatGPT drawing tool is Santiago making his own drawing tools as a kind of futuristic using ChatGPT and using these P5JS. Of course, we saw the waffle draws tool where, and we've seen different tools that Santiago has made over the months. And so here, there's something to be said for making your own tools. If you don't want to be copied, make your own tools. And now to Santiago's, credit, although I wouldn't hold it against him if he didn't, he publishes. As far as I understand, who knows about this tool, but generally speaking, Santiago shares all of his tools that he makes. Who knows with this one, but all to say, just a really cool work, a smaller work. Maybe because it's on Ethereum here, this is on Foundation, reserve of 0.1 ETH, 3400 by 2700 pixels. It looks fabulous, doesn't it? And again, we'll just zoom in a second here. But here you see it with the white border. It fits this, basically this screen here, this frame perfectly. Absolutely perfectly here. So let's actually just go back and zoom in quickly here, just to get a feel for it. This beautifully textured, incredibly original abstract here. Like, we are familiar with it because we've seen a ton of Santiago's work over the previous weeks, months, and turning into years here. Look at this great edge there. So who knows how these are being, how the collage is actually being made here. It almost looks as if you could have taken another work by Santiago and started using that for masking, where it just starts to reveal certain areas, but totally debatable here. In our very debatable morning. So again, welcome back, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Isn't that a beautiful work here to get us started? So coming up this Wednesday, we have a Artist Journal live with Atlas Pop, who is doing a show with RuneTune in New York City, and I'll show it to you in a second. They are basically, are they co-curating? Let's look. New site is up, ceramicghost.io. If you're in New York City area, April 12th to 14th, we hope to see you at our digital art event, Brooklyn Crush. NFT New York City stragglers are welcome. Selected works from the Atlas Pop and RuneTune collections will be showcased. Tezos. So pretty cool. So if you are in New York or Brooklyn, April 12th to 14th, so we're going to do a show basically about what they're up to here. So it should be interesting. It should be fun. And so that is in the feed, and I will pin that up right now. So if you just go to my feed, you will find it pinned at the top. So that is coming up this Wednesday. So all very cool there. So let's look at the comments here quickly. The Forgotten. The Forgotten. One must never forget about the Forgotten in the art world. So let's take a look here. Saiko. Thank you so much for reviewing collaboration work with Sky. Yeah, so they had a beautiful collaboration last episode, Saiko and Sky Goodman. We have been enjoying to work together. It's a really interesting combination there, Saiko. We always have an amazing result, indeed. Indeed, and here's Kelly Burns. Take one, love it. Thanks so much for sharing my work, Adrian. So this is Kel's, and thank you for sending me the work that we showed last episode. I think it was posted in the community there. So thank you, Kels, and thank you for all the huge support as well over the weeks and months. What is turning into years out here. So thank you, Kels. Awesome to hear from you. Manidal, big thanks again. And we have another Manidal this show. Big thanks again to you for sharing our Tung Mang, the Calico Cat with Hat. You know, that was a beautiful work. I remember the color of this. It really stood out. I think I said on the show, this is more beautiful than the image that sold for $4 million. Stuart Reed, Daniel W. with the Corporate Bestiary series. Did you know he is the artist for the upcoming Tezpol PFP project? They look great. Stay tuned. I had no idea there was a Tezpol PFP project. What I like about Tezos Pol, which is basically the meme coin that got airdropped to artists in December, which hasn't really, I don't think it's rocketed in price yet, but people are holding. I am a holder, and full transparency there. I had no idea that they were doing a PFP project, but what I love about Tezos Pol is how kind of serious they take their work to a certain degree. Like they constantly seem to be grinding in order to do something, and here they're doing a PFP project with Daniel W., which should turn some heads. So very cool and pretty exciting. Thank you, Stuart Reed, for the comment there. And here's Zuck Markerberg. I bet you get that a lot, but you look like Andy from Weeds. So I have never seen Weeds, unfortunately. I hardly watch. Here we go. Do I maybe a touch. Maybe a touch. Thank you for the comment, Zuck. Pixelare, grazie. So yeah, beautiful work. I think it was also a homage there last episode to the cat with hat, or dog with hat. Kyle Flemmer, so much snow in Calgary this morning. Gotta love Canadian spring. Indeed. Here it's starting to get nice. It's actually, this week in Berlin, it's going to be a nice 20 degrees, I think, by the end of the week. So that is exciting. Your weather forecast here as well. Phosphor Operator, thank you for the feature, Adrian. The piece you've shown and 3 others have a unique one-of-one print included in the sale. So this looks like it, and this looks like the work, the one-of-one print, and you have to love your weight here for your paperweight. These are the nicest paperweights I've ever seen. These beautiful Canon or Toshiba lenses here. There's a Carl Zeiss. All to say, here is the work on black. Interesting. How do you print on black unless it's screen print, a one-of-one print? Unless you print the black area too. Then in that case, you can do it. But it's, of course, anybody who's done inkjet on black, you're not going to have much luck. It's not going to show anything. So this is interesting. So probably on white paper and then ink all the way to the side. Very cool. Looks great. And I love the multimedia over here. Multi-chain, multi-platform, multimedia. Lots of stuff going on multi-chain here. And maybe that's a good time. Gogolitis responding to me not being able to figure out what else Tezos does. An interesting question other than the art. When it comes to the disconnect between what's happening in the art world on Tezos and the rest of what's going on, I'm totally on board. And I'd like to share a little thought about that. About a year ago, I wanted to explore the projects and technological innovations being developed on Tezos outside of art. So I headed over to Tezos' Twitter page thinking that the accounts they would follow surely be related to the projects I'm looking for. I'm sure I will find them here. To my surprise, Tezos literally follows no one. They have 0 following. So interesting. It might seem like a small thing, but it's not because it complicates everything. I know the world isn't just Twitter, but still, yeah, and I can understand. And yeah, I always find it kind of annoying when people have 0 followers. But yeah, everybody, I guess, has their own social media and their own philosophy as to their own PR strategy. I mean, isn't that what it comes down to? But I agree with Gogolitis that it's might for something like Tezos, which is kind of a community where blockchain and communities are go hand in hand. I think Gogo says right here, you'd think they'd be following the main projects like Object. I think this is what Gogo says right here. It might seem like a small thing, but it's not. And Gogo has like a graphic design, like you get the sense Gogo has a bit of an agency background. You can tell even from the work. It's not a small thing because it complicates, but it might seem like a small thing, but it's not because it complicates everything. I know the world isn't just Twitter, but still. Is there a valid reason for Tezos not following Labos Nomades or Object.com? Maybe I don't follow. I mean, that could be a Twitter glitch, but I don't even. But maybe these are the programmers, and all the others that precisely I'm not familiar with. Every time I think about it, it frustrates me because I realize that every time someone lands on their Twitter page, Tezos isn't doing the minimum required in terms of communication to promote the Tezos ecosystem. Well, it's not even about promotion at this point, but simply about information sharing. If only Tezos would take the time to follow the projects that matter, we would easily provide an overview for everyone. As a Tezos user, I need the ecosystem to grow, I need information to flow, and it's probably in your interest too if you're reading these lines. Indeed. I mean, if there are people who have an overview of the situation, it must be them, right? I guess we'll never know. The following section is a very important and valuable source of information, and it's a shame they don't ever use it. So it's kind of a, interesting, elaborate comment there from Gogolitis, and it's hard to disagree with, isn't it? I'm fairly zen in the sense of, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But from a strategic, if we're to kind of strategic analysis here, PR strategy, one does wonder and think, well, maybe there are better ways of approaching it. And Trippy agreeing, and Gogo, isn't it crazy that they don't follow anyone? So continuing, but indeed, there are accounts that don't follow anyone, and in many cases, it's not an obligation. Exactly as we were saying here, but regarding the case of Tezos, I believe there's a sense of responsibility. It's a very small thing to do. It's not very complicated to click a mouse. I do it several times a day. So feeling strongs about it. And Trippy Collector also agreeing. And we got a couple of more comments here. Web3 Jeff A. Tezos is a blockchain, not an entity. In order to maintain decentralization and fairness, the Tezos page cannot follow anyone. However, Trilitech, myself, and the other entities in the ecosystem actively support our friends and communities in the ecosystem. Well, it's an interesting question. If it is just completely decentralized, but who then starts the account? It's an interesting, dilemma here. We're trying to be decentralized, so maybe by following people, there's a sense of favoritism, right? So, I mean, it's an interesting argument. Maybe that's the reason why they do it, to be fair. There are definitely things we can improve on. This will happen with help from the community. But you do wonder if this is just... I don't know. I haven't looked at the Ethereum Foundation. Let's look at it after. I mean, let's look at Ethereum. Let's see if they follow anybody, because it's an interesting question. Retro Manny, very good point. Trilitech, Gogolitis, your feedback is great. We're currently doing a survey. So this got a lot of traction here. And there's a survey here from Trilitech. And immediately, I hope they will see this. ETH Foundation doing the same. Okay, so maybe this is the reason. Maybe it's about decentralization, and it's as simple as that. So maybe there is like a method to the madness here. So just interesting, but a lot of people agreeing. And the question always becomes with these blockchains like Ethereum and Tezos is how decentralized are they though? Like there is an Ethereum Foundation. It's an interesting question, but I do understand the dilemma of how do you say you're decentralized? I mean, they may be doing it for SEC reasons. Again, to be fair, maybe they're like, hey, if the SEC sees that we're starting to follow certain people and that someone is behind this account, then maybe it looks like it starts to look like a security. Maybe that it's as simple as that, because otherwise it doesn't seem to make sense. But maybe it's like a legal issue. if we were to be, kind of, as they say, the charity of interpretation here. Blind Ripper also here. Tezos is literally decentralization maximalism. I remember about discussions in the beginning around this topic. I recall from my mind, if anything is wrong, please correct me. The problem with official accounts is it contradicts the concept of decentralization. There can't be something official in a decentralized network. Now, the question remains, though, if you have an account, who started that? And like, is there a Bitcoin account that was, it's an interesting question, but so who knows? And maybe there is a foundation, and I don't see anything wrong with a foundation, but I guess it depends on the relationship. So we're getting in the weeds here. But I think like there are entities on Tezos who do seem to want to promote the blockchain. And those entities, there is a communication issue, as we basically highlighted last show, with knowing what else is going on. Because a lot of us have Tezos, and maybe we go, oh, maybe we can stake it here, or maybe we can have some fun with this crypto other than buying art. And maybe it's good for the art scene that we don't have these other options. So I'll just say, thanks for the comment, Gogo. Very well thought out and interesting and provocative. Vec, nice episode. Thank you. Kels, thanks for sharing my work. Made these first four on an alt account, Myers Squire in 2022, ink on paper drawings, photographed and edited in Photoshop. Figured I'd bring them over to my main Twitter. Thanks so much for all you're doing here, sir. So thank you, Kels. And look at these. So interesting art here. Nice kind of interesting cutout here. Almost looks like physical and digital, but not positive on that. So interesting characters here. So just an absolute pleasure. And I'm glad I can bring the joy. And there's Kurt Hustle Collective. Big shout out. Helio Santos. We have another mention this episode. Simon Lazarus. I think we have something from you this episode too. I love this profile picture of the broken shape, broken image. Very poetic there. Mert Kuyusumu. Hey, love this video. Well, thank you. Thank you. And a couple of comments. So my good friend Sarah Kretschmer, who I haven't seen since, pre-COVID, who lives in Berlin, last I heard, but we went to a few openings and everything, just a friend of mine. There's on Object. So how cool is this? Let's just see. Good morning. And I think this is great. So Sarah is joining the party here on Tezos. Hey, good morning. I just minted my first NFT collection on Object yesterday. Question. And of course, Sarah's out of like the contemporary art scene here in Berlin. As far as I remember, I think she's still in Berlin. Do you create additional to own? So this is your classic kind of, when you first mint a work on Tezos or even on the blockchain, do you create additional to own? No, I unintentionally created a bunch that I now own and wondering if I should burn and remint. Thoughts. So I brought up your page here because maybe you're probably confused because you probably minted the work and there are 15 of them and you're wondering, okay, there are 10 Tezos. It looks like you've listed them. You've listed all 15. So if you want to own one, what you have to do is actually unlist this and then mint 14, and then you'll just have one that stays in your possession. When you mint the work, for those that don't know, they are in your collection. So if we go to Sarah Kretschmer here, and here's the collection. It looks really cool, as a matter of fact. Painter, designer, digital artist, located in Berlin, Germany. Awesome. So as you'll see in your owned, you'll see your works here. So you own these works, and then now you have all 15 for sale. So if you sold all 15, this would disappear out of the owned tab. So what you want to do if you want to keep some, let's say you want to keep one, you would list 14, and then those 14 would hopefully sell, and then you'll be left with one. And this number will go down as you sell them, I think. So all to say, I hope that answers your question. So you did it perfectly, but if you want to keep one, just make sure that you don't list all 15 in case everybody buys one, right? So you want to list 14, okay? So I hope that answers your question, but if you have any more questions, by all means, feel free to. It's awesome to see you in the community here. So all sorts of things going on in the community. This is exactly what it's for here. 2002, I believe this is in the show here too. Just really interesting work that I would never find otherwise. Here's another one posted by Trippy. So it's just a lot of fun. Here's Austin with the fire extinguisher. So, and look, spraying the fire extinguisher. So just all very cool basketball shots here. Looks like some AI. We have this August Ground work, who I still need to reach out for the spaces here, macrometry. So all sorts of fun is being had here, as you can see. And thank you, Luke500, for posting this. I missed this, interestingly. So I miss a ton. So thank you also just for posting links and everything. So just a ton of fun being had here. Look at that. Thank you everybody for posting. And here is Simulacro. So just super cool. And let me just make sure everyone is getting the love. So let's continue here. So thank you, Sarah, and everybody for posting in there. So Katya Kazakina, the art detective here, with a kind of a big headline here. A splashy headline, quote, "It's not a soft landing. Contemporary art prices come crashing down. Is this the end?" So, of course, Katya Kazakina is the art detective and works for ArtNet. And luckily, because I follow her account, it's a private account, but because she accepted the follow many years ago when I made a painting of one of her articles. Current market conditions challenge the popular belief that art always goes up. So this is something we've been following for a while. Let's see what Katya Kazakina has to say here. Of course, out of New York, very prominent kind of art reporter. Art reporter. "The fog of flipping is lifting and the emerging landscape is littered with casualties. Just look at any number of contemporary art auctions that occurred this month. Contemporary curated at Sotheby's on March 1st, 82% of lots sold after 22 lots were withdrawn. New Now at Phillips on March 12th, 72% sold by lot after 12 withdrawals. Post-war to present at Christie's on March 13th, 73% sold by lot with 8 lots withdrawn. And much of what did sell went for well below previous highs." Now, again, I have a complete theory on this, which is this is all about liquidity. As anybody knows, as I'd say 80% of this audience has bought art awesomely, maybe more awesomely. As anybody knows who's bought art, it's not exactly something you can buy and sell. It's not the most fungible asset. It's not like Bitcoin, where you buy Bitcoin and you can sell it instantly, right, on Binance or Coinbase or whatever you use, or ETH. You know, it's not super fungible. It's a unique artwork. So I think you see the same thing here, despite, all-time highs in the stock market. And I think what we have going on here is a chastened market. The market is not the same, although we have Bitcoin breaking previous highs of the last historic, legendary, greatest bull market of all time in 2021. Although we have Bitcoin breaking those highs, we don't see the same result with the art, at least not yet. And the reason I think that is because we had a brutal 2022 bear market, and it was crushing. Even all the way into 2022, 2023, it was crushing. And so I think it's a chastened, it's like the stove has been touched and it has been burnt, and all of a sudden people are much more kind of conscious of where they're spending their money. And I think this is just another example of this. And by the way, do you want your money right now? Did you want it to be 2 months ago in NVIDIA, or do you want it to be in an art piece? This market's going down, as if we, taking what Katya Kazakina says. So where do you want your money? And people really underplay the importance of art as an investment. The reason these things are so expensive is because they have, as Katya Kazakina has mentioned, they've just been on an upward trajectory. Beat real estate is kind of, you'll find the ads on Instagram. This beats real estate. Buy fine art. Well, that's over, seemingly, at least for now. So let's continue here. And here's a painting. And I would actually add my own commentary on this that Katya, I don't think, has mentioned. I mean, these are just fragments of the article. But I would say there is so much art out there right now. Like, we're seeing it like on the physical art. There's a whole bunch of incredible art. There's a whole bunch of incredible digital art. As you see, this turned into an hour and a half show when I'd prefer it to be 40 minutes, so, or 45, let's put it 40, 45 minutes. So there is a ton of interesting art out there. You could argue there is too much. I mean, to paraphrase Gerhard Richter, there's too much art out there. As I always say, easy for him to say. He's already basically made it and he continues to make it. But, nobody else should, I guess, right? So these are the factors, though, I would argue. That's another factor. So let's continue here. The painting first hit the auction block in 2021, the year it was painted after a couple of rapid fire flips. So I think referring to this painting here. It fetched a whopping $189,000 against a top estimate of $35,000. Its new owner had no such luck this month. Sisters in Pink hammered at just $8,000 against an estimate of $10,000 to $15,000. So this person spent probably more on the fees to Sotheby's than they got back. Like, they didn't even get back their fees, probably, on this $189,000 work. Let that sink in. Someone who bought the painting for $189,000 sold it for $8,000 3 years later. No, I am not missing a zero. This is a pretty sobering article. And my impression is people read Katya Kazakina in the art scene. So this is kind of, this kind of reinforcing narrative now. This narrative is getting reinforced as people read an article like this, as we discuss it. The stark result got me thinking about how people in the art industry think about prices, myself included. And it's pretty interesting. But what happens to this narrative when prices come crashing down, as they are now? She's calling it a crash. Why does investment-grade art appear to be a lot less liquid than even 2 years ago? Back to liquidity. Are we facing a future where investors may be hard-pressed to recoup their money? How did we get here? I will examine these topical questions in a series of articles, but first allow me to backtrack. And this is actually worth reading here very quickly. When I started on the art market beat in Bloomberg at Bloomberg in 2006, discussing prices was considered borderline gauche. And this is a very interesting point, because art media became all about these incredible prices that were being selling over this kind of discussion of art. It all became about what did this sell for, and everything. I had to jump through all kinds of hoops to get prices from the galleries. At art fairs, many dealers would take one look at my press badge and clam up. Things changed as the financialization of art became a huge story. It really did. You could argue it was this story. Auction houses and galleries realized that they could generate a lot of publicity with big prices. Here's some typical Bloomberg headlines from years past. $110 million Basquiat sold by family who bought it for $19,000. Brass sculpture could deliver a 1.4 million % return for heirs. I once worked with an editor who pioneered art coverage at the Wall Street Journal in the 1970s. He urged me to do a story about the market's big problem, liquidity. Art is very hard to resell, quote. He said. I shrugged it off, laser focused as I was on art as an investment. Art is very hard to resell. Now and you know what? Imagine, like, we're in the digital art world. I think it's 10 times easier to resell art in our world. But imagine you have a physical piece of art. How on earth do you sell that? Like, who do you have to talk to? What is that costing you just for someone to help you out, right? If you're in New York and you have some $1 million painting that you want to get rid of, you're probably paying $200,000, I'm guessing, just to make this all happen. Whether it's someone talking to the auction house and the auction house fees and everything. At least here in, digital, we kind of, at least if I want to put a work up, and I want to sell it, it's at least, there's a whole market, you get a notification, costs us nothing, right? So we are, I'd say, in better shape out here, I would argue, in terms of liquidity, just by virtue of the communication channels. Let's continue here. Now, I am finally doing it, or at least dipping my toes into this massive topic of liquidity. I was tempted to call it the art market's dirty secret. But no one I spoke with seemed surprised. I'd say that 85 to 90% of all art is like a new car. One art advisor told me, as soon as you roll it off the lot, it's worth half of what it's worth. So the advisor, who has a thriving business, asked not to be named, and it's easy to see why. The transactional fever of the past 2 decades has been built on the notion that art rivals stocks and real estate as an investment. Fractional ownership companies like Masterworks are selling the dream to small investors, while art funds target wealthy ones with blue chip trophies, and art bros speculate on hot emerging names. Market insiders just kept smiling and ringing the register, cha-ching. The reason I'm going so in depth with this, it's almost like, because with this article, I would argue that Katya Kazakina is lifting the veil. And it's kind of like what we, I would argue what we kind of all, or a lot of us kind of lightly, including her, kind of probably lightly suspected was the situation, but we just kept getting surprised by these headlines, and well, they just amazingly keep selling. But it's almost like she's going, you know what? As I've said maybe 200, maybe more episodes ago, this doesn't look like this is worth what is being paid for it. A lot of this traditional art. Again, here on Tezos, or other blockchains like Zora, or you name it, Ethereum. Ethereum's a little different because it's a little more expensive, but again, you're paying $100 for work. We're in so much better shape here because of how cheap a lot of the art is that a lot of us have bought. So it's, as who put it? Was it Walk? No, it was someone else just the other day who mentioned it was Ellie Lowe. It was Ellie Lowe who was saying, the great thing about Tezos art is it can't go much lower, right? So, and it's true. It's actually true. So, if you pay $10 for a work, what is your loss here? It's nothing like this. And you can probably even get it back if it's from an artist that people know about. So all very interesting. So over the past year, I began hearing concerns. Let's just finish this off here. Over the past year, I began hearing concerns about a growing disconnect between the primary and secondary markets. Primary prices have gotten so high for many artists that they cannot be resold for a profit any longer, sources told me. That complaint speaks volumes about this investment-obsessed moment in the art world. Quote, until relatively recently, the common wisdom was that if art held its value over time, that was a success. An auction executive said, most importantly, you had the pleasure of living with it. And if you could sell it years later and get your money back, all the better. So all to say here, let's finish this off. Take Pat Stair, a revered octogenarian whose 14 new paintings at Hauser and Wirth in Los Angeles sold in 24 hours. I hear at prices ranging from $700 to $850,000. A quick search of the ArtNet price database reveals that just 10 works by Stair out of 167 listed fetched more than $700,000 at auction. The artist's auction record of $2.3 million was set in 2018. So pretty interesting developments here, courtesy of Katya Kazakina. And here was another JP Art Advisory. They were an account I follow on Instagram. They posted this article here. I think this is from the Financial Times, just based on the color here. Rebooted Art Basel Hong Kong back to full strength. But then the return of former exhibitors to the fair boosts the city's place in Asia's art market, even as political and economic challenges persist. And you see something similar. China's economy is facing a protracted slowdown. Its property sector hurt, and the art market has not been immune, with disappointing auction sales, including works. So these are just fragments of the article, but all to say, saying a not dissimilar thing. The art market has not been immune with disappointing auction sales. So that's out of the FT. Interestingly as well, here is an article in the New York Times, and this was in April. Wait, it's not even April yet. Was this from 2022? So maybe this is just an old article. Thrilled to announce the acquisition of my Sotheby's auctioned NFT, the wonder of it all. So this is just an old article, actually. So I missed this. But maybe interesting here, Pompidou acquired Anne Spelter's a work of hers. So that is cool. So again, where would you rather be is kind of my, once again, my refrain here. If you're going to be in an art scene, that's slowing down, where do you want to be? So let's continue here. Super rare, this just in. This is super interesting. So we heard last week that Super Rare is in April going to collaborate with Gamma.io. I think the first week of April 7th or something like this. And so we have another interesting development here. Super Rare, this just in, releases update. Releases allow artists to put a body of work on chain in one transaction, leaving gas fees to collectors. So this seems to be quite similar to Gamma's way of working, which is, and it's on chain, which is let the collectors pay the minting fees. What's interesting about this, you can put it on chain in one transaction. So it's almost like they figured out how you can get your work on chain, but if people want to, but again, pushing the cost to the collector, which I'm all for, frankly, because then there's no longer this hurdle or barrier towards posting your work, right? Want to give your community premium access? Now you can gate a release with the new allow list function. So pretty cool. And again, this kind of feels like, you know what it feels like to me? It feels like, because you have this on Magic Eden, if you put out a collection, you can create an allow list. It seems to me that people at Super Rare have been using Magic Eden, maybe even Gamma.io, collecting ordinals, and are coming back and going, how do we reinvent our business here on Super Rare with everything we've learned, with everything we're seeing on ordinals? That is my kind of speculation here. And I think all to the better. Look, I mean, this is awesome. So Paper Buddha here, awesome artist, is using the allow list feature. So very cool, and Paper Buddha is an awesome artist and just cool, all-around cool dude. And here it is, mint allow list. So just super cool and exciting. Continuing on here as we are 41 minutes in, and we're going to speed up here. Zach, load times on Zora have decreased significantly. Again, shout out to Zora Engineering. So they continue to develop over there on Zora. Michael, who we had on the Spaces, really interesting. I'd loosely call a historian of Hen, knows a lot about the history of Hen. Let's put it that way. There's a great show we did there in the fall. Everyone losing their minds about the community abandoning Tezos because John minted an iced tea on Solana. Yeah, and you know, people. I've seen the same tweets you have, Michael, and I think people really just need to focus on their work. Is sort of my take on the whole. People worrying about this and that. I mean, week changes, and all of a sudden you have we're going to see here the massive sales using Base. So again, you know, it's interesting. I'll show you in a second here. We'll look at the X copy sales in a second here. But I mean, this scene is hilarious in the sense of how quickly the sentiment can just fall through the floor. Yeah, but I thought this was kind of illustrative and kind of helpful here too. So here's Helio Santos, top creator, top buyer. So here's Helio Santos, and kind of speaks a lot about this scene, really. Like there is Helio Santos in the top buyers, and they're in the top seller, the absolute top seller. So you have to love that. You know, artists as collectors, something that we're kind of mentioning very early in this show is something that's quite interesting. Artists have always been collectors, but it's different this time in the sense that it's easier to collect, and there's just more, you know, because of this cryptocurrency thing and the website, again, notifications, Object's brilliant website, I get the impression that artists are collecting more than they traditionally would, as well as the liquidity. I might add, it's easier as an investment to deal with online than it is with a physical artwork. And the problem why a lot of artists aren't collectors of physical work is they don't have huge places. They don't have the mansion. You know, they're just going from apartment to apartment. Okay. So here, now, okay, this is quite an interesting contrast here. So Xcopy minted this Mutatio, I believe this is the one. I think it's a GLB, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure, just downloaded it to my computer here. So I minted this. There are a million minted. So what a contrast with what we saw from Katya Kazakina. Again, more reasons to be bullish on this scene in the sense of, let's say there is a general sense of a move towards liquidity. Where would you rather be? In the physical art world? Or a gallerist in the physical art world paying rent and not making any sales? Or having to lower your prices by 80%? Or do you want to be here where you make your digital art, it costs you basically nothing other than your time and your technology, which, so basically your time. And, here, Xcopy, okay, special case, but nevertheless, minting 1 million of these things, probably bringing in like 690 ETH, if my math is correct. Maybe it's more. Selling them for a couple of bucks, it looks like. So, again, the power of numbers on the internet, right? I mean, this is almost like the fantasy of being a digital artist. I think Rob V3 had this tweet like a year ago, or maybe more, 2 years ago. NFT artists will be the next rock stars. I think I had it on the show, so maybe a year and a half ago. This is kind of like the dream. You sell 1 million works for $2 each, and then you walk away with $1 million or $2 million, right? I mean, how much is this? How much did Xcopy make here? I mean, $2 million? I don't know, but this is, it's pretty mind-boggling. Okay, so there is another aspect to this as well. This was minted on Base, right? Which is, as far as I understand, Coinbase's layer 2 on Ethereum. Okay, so Coinbase puts out their own blockchain, as a layer 2 on Ethereum. Now, I think part of the method to the madness here, the coin hasn't been released yet, if there's going to be a coin, and I think we can assume there will be a coin. So I think part of the method to the madness here is if the more sales you make on Base, probably the higher your airdrop is going to be, right? So there's probably good reason to do something like this, because whenever that airdrop comes, Xcopy probably gets $1 million in airdrop too, right? If he has $1 million, if you get like a coin per sale, let's say. So Uxine also putting one out on Base. So Base is looking popular here. It's probably a very smart place to mint if you're an artist, as far as, again, preparing for an airdrop and even just taking advantage of the situation here. There is some hype on Base here. So again, selling 1,000 at 0.0, so maybe a couple of bucks again, but bringing in maybe a few $100 if I'm not mistaken here. Maybe 0.2 ETH if I'm not mistaken. So cool work. We looked at this work here, Fetishistic Logic by Uxine, again, Base 2024, using manifold.xyz, I might add. Now, this one, thank you, Luke500, again, for posting this. And this is visualizevalue.eth, but I wish I knew the name of that artist. We're already going long, but we looked at it earlier in the show. And playing off of, I think, a very prominent artist, by the way, a name I should know, playing off of Damien Hirst's, the impossibility of, what is it, knowing what death is when you're alive, this sort of thing. And here, verification, the physical impossibility of provenance. So a concept work, 1988. Maybe that's when the Damien Hirst work was made. It looks like 148,000 were minted. So, and again, collect for 0.0018. I mean, is that did that person bring in 1,000 ETH? So I find this incredibly exciting, because what this means is if you can build your audience online, it shows the power of X. And I guess this came out on Farcaster, by the way. So I don't know if I have the tweet about that. If you weren't on, you weren't on Farcaster when Jack dropped an open edition on Base. So I wish we had the full name there. So all to say, this was dropped on Farcaster, but all to say, the power of having a big audience, because you do these little mints, and these $2 mints, but all of a sudden if 1,000 or 5,000, this is kind of weirdly, I'd say, the dream to a large degree of being a digital artist. One of the kind of financial outcomes you'd hope for. India Robot, after their monumental drop, Xcopy and Neon Glitch surpassed 1 million mints. The now historic fly is in the Portal Gallery. So there's the fly. It looks like a GLB, doesn't it? Shout out to Neon Glitch for sending the file. Swing by if you want. You can access a bunch of dope galleries there. So interesting. So the fly has made it into Indio's museum, if I understand properly. And there were a ton of works that came out. And of course, I follow Rata. That is the next glitch. When you open a whole bunch of tabs here. Aborted sketch. So cool sketch here by Rata with the rat riding the Mutatio fly. I didn't quite understand the fly in itself as far as, like, I guess it's just a sculpture of sorts, a virtual sculpture by Xcopy. And I guess that's all there was to it. I was trying to figure out, like, what I didn't get, in a sense. So who knows? Zach again in Brazil. So come to Brazil. So again, the action is going on here. And again, probably everybody in this room could probably afford to buy one of those X copies, you know, at $2 or whatever it was. So interesting. And here's another one. Early look at ORB, an on-chain exhibition that brought together 3 artists, collectives in Sao Paulo. So Zach from Zora is traveling through Brazil, and I think also passed through Argentina. Hivemind DAO, Seed DAO, Magma XYZ for a first of its kind event at Carocho Gallery, if I'm pronouncing that right. And here's the video. Kind of more populated than... I guess I went to an art show this weekend that was pretty well populated, but it's well attended, is what I'm getting at here. Nicely attended, well attended show. So again, where would you rather be? Here's another look at Rata's digital art in every home, Rata Yankees. Here's another look at Rata's gallery, who of course I follow there. And look, the Gogolitis and the Limbo. There's another Gogolitis. Really nice job. We're looking at some of the other work. Look at the yellow. And these works by Santiago, who we started the show with. And here's, I think, Neon Monkey or Argyle. And then this big... So a beautiful show, even with the sculpture in the middle. Nice work. Beautiful gallery. This is interesting. So Pale Kirill, Not Me by Pale Kirill and Hivemind by Lily Illo. Can't wait for the paintings to get here so I can hang them on the wall, and I wonder what they smell like. So I don't know what's going on here. Again, is this... Because I thought... I had been told that Art Matter wasn't running anymore. I don't know if that's true, though. That was just in conversation that I heard that. So I don't know if that's true at all. But I don't know how these are being made. I assumed, to me, this looks like Art Matter. So very interesting and very cool. I'm not sure if these are old or new. Cool looking work, physicals there. So we're still working out what exactly that is. Jean Provencher. So we've been looking at a ton of Jean Provencher's work here. And doing the Mona Lisa in a very interesting style here. I really love, remember, I think I started the show here where I was talking about how ideas kind of create a nice foundation as to why, they give you reasons why a work should be important. There's an idea associated with it here as well. Because you could, if you just look at the 3 squares here on their own, you go, okay, you know, my kid could do this. But when you look at it in terms of the narrative here and the exploration of a process, then you see, oh, this is the Mona Lisa reduced to 3 cubes. And then we see, you know, next iterations as it gets more complicated here, becomes interesting, it becomes significant, right? It becomes kind of like intellectual activity as well. Like it's stimulating on not just the aesthetic, on not just the purely, oh, it's pretty, it's interesting. It's significant. There's something going on here. It's pushing the envelope. It's a discovery of sorts. So Jean Provencher, keeping it interesting. Dr. Version, putting an LB on the wall here. Let me see if I can, look at this. And that frame has been really making works look beautiful there. So very cool video there from Dr. Version. We have a few works by Dr. Version. If I can speed up this show, we will see. Here's Simon Lazarus. So we saw a comment there. And I think I gave Simon a follow, and then I started seeing stuff like this. So look at this. So just interesting. I think this uses pen plotter. Let's just look. Felt pen, plotter, 25 copies. So just another mystery here for us. So pen plotter, it looks like pen plotting. How cool is that? So just pretty interesting as, again, we see this alchemical transformation from digital to physical. Here's another interesting, so this is using the paint plotter, I believe. This is Helio Santos. And these are all had bids of 700 Tezos each. Fabric Tez has initiated 3 24-hour auctions for works by Helio Santos. So, and I think I brought one of these up large here on Object 1. So this went for 755. So there were more bids that came in. And I mean, pretty amazing. I'm pretty sure this is a paint plotter. We're going to see in a second there. Pretty cool. Has a nice kind of impressionistic feel. Let's see what it says here. Synthetic landscape captured through machine learning, painted with a drawing robot. So a landscape captured through machine learning, painted with a drawing robot. Oil and canvas on panel. You know, it's pretty interesting. You might think a human had made this. If you didn't know, you might just think, oh, this is a really interesting painter who made this. Pretty amazing work. Here is Debbie T, GM for the Ever Anxious Illustrator. Great to see Debbie T. This looks like a physical, so we see some of Debbie T's physical work here. As you can see, almost like a water stain there. So very cool. Really just sophisticated illustrator here, as you can see there. Just beautiful work from Debbie T, who I don't see a ton from. And here's Tornado with a wild drawing here. And just, you see all of Tornado's talent here. I have to go back to, and of course I follow Tornado Rodriguez. That is Glitch on X. I have to go back to Rotring. It's a really big drawing. So again, just cool work here. Maybe back to drawing. So I'll just say pretty impressive drawing there. Here's Klaus, made a new tool mainly for controlling feedback between two mixers. It does glitch too. This looks pretty insane. I'm almost more impressed. I'm as impressed by the wires as I am by the artwork, and the artwork looks pretty rad. So this is how Klaus makes the magic here on this old monitor. Gotta love it. Very cool. So that is Klaus working the magic here. And here's Simon Lazarus again. Our new Paris show, Tramage, featuring Loac Me, opens tonight at Gallery Data. It will display plotter drawings. I think we saw that earlier. Limited print editions and new works on Object. Thanks to Bijou One's NFT Spritz. Shout out to NFT Spritz. And this must be the... No. Augur's NFT and Frau shitcoins there. So I'm not sure what's going on with NFT Spritz account, or if it's the wrong one. We'll figure that out. So here's the work, or the ad for it, or the poster, Gallery Data. So very cool. That looks like it's in France, Paris. Very cool looking show. And here's Martin Bruce. Also, now I'm not sure where this is, but also in the gallery here. Look at these boxes. Almost like a place to sit. Look at this oval, this circular gradient here. What a wild artist Martin Bruce really is. Radical, truly radical here. Just constantly upsetting expectations at every decision along the way. You know, just being surprising. Into the regular digital artworks we go. Here's rustic digital art with a gorgeous work, Not Flamingos. I picked this up. It was very reasonably priced at 2 Tezos. I thought just a beautiful abstract here. Kind of has a de Kooning kind of feel to it. Now, interestingly, you start to see here, it almost starts to look a little bit like collage too. So very interesting. Very, very interesting. Almost as if you're seeing a similar thing going on in Santiago's work. And you see it's been selected here. So very interesting. Magic wand type selections here. Very interesting. Now 15 Tezos on secondary. So this is a thing. Think Katya Kazakina, right? And oh, you're lucky if you get the money you had back. I think, you know, the people that paid 2 Tezos, 22 Tezos cents, they're going to get their money back, and they could probably even make a little profit here, right? So it's a small example, but it's a sign, I would argue, of again, it's back to this, you know, theme. What's becoming a theme? Where would you rather be? Here's Santiago Ruao. This is for 35 Tezos edition of 19. This might be older. It is. It's 3 years ago. I thought it was a new one. Look at this beautiful work by Santiago Ruao. So an early work here from, I guess, 3 years ago now. Now it's 35 Tezos. So it is an interesting point because this was bought for half a Tezos. So you see where the growth possibilities are. Is it for canvases that are trading for, $800,000 each that Kaja Kazakina is discussing, or for works that are selling for half a Tezos that are now, selling for 35? You probably get 2 Tezos just like that. Interestingly. 4x, right? So even just from the investment thesis, it is interesting how much, again, I keep saying this, where would you rather be? Let's continue here. Dan Control, a fly. So again, there's a ton of works celebrating and doing homage to X-Copy's Fly here. Here is Fly by Dan Control. This is for 10 Tezos, edition of 50. So not cheap for an edition of 50 here. Nice work here and nice homage here, nice background, and selling. 2, 4, 6, 7 sold so far. So not bad at all. 70 Tezos and edition of 50. Pretty good. Nuv 1914 with a couple of interesting works here. This looks like almost like I can't read the Spanish there, but almost looks like someone with a cape riding almost what looks like a white horse or a pony here in this wonderful landscape here. Edition of 2 sold out at 8 Tezos. Same person buying both. And here's another one of 1914, Compartiendo. It shows that could sell for 16, interestingly. Here's an edition of 2 as well. None sold here. And this looks like a tree with a couple of people, a couple of women maybe, sitting underneath the tree, maybe an orange tree. So just more edgy work here by Nuv 1914. And here's Wozo, Distant Summer Days. This is going for 3 Tezos, edition of 10. I love the vague feelings that Zozo evokes. Always interesting. These beautiful pixelated marks. So like a beach here. So just very distant summer days. Remember the work we started with, I don't know, 3 weeks ago? This is the place or something, and it felt like summer camp. Just really good at kind of hitting those emotions. Really, there's Yuri J picking one up. So 3 gone, as far as I could tell. Morgan Higby Flowers, who you could feel could hang in at least the next room or the same room as Zozo there, with these great textures. This may have been posted in the community. I'm not sure, but I think that's how I came across this. So cool work there. Let's continue. Here's PP Universal. When you sell Bitcoin at 29 and it rises to 72 the next month. Hilarious, kind of. Yeah, that's like the story of many people. The story of many people. I mean, my philosophy with crypto, and not everybody can do this, but my philosophy of crypto is whatever's made, I just keep in there. And then, because always feels like there's so many investment opportunities, I generally just keep it in there. And that maybe isn't good advice, actually. Probably the best thing to do is when it's high, you take everything out. But I tend to just leave it in there because it's too much fun. So PP Universal contemplating life and existence after selling Bitcoin at 29,000 and wondering what could have been, with the Joy Division shirt, maybe apropos, and the orange face here. Let's see if we can very quickly zoom in here. So again, these sampled brushes, really nice piece. And a work, again, that people can relate to. Interesting white background. Reminds me of Myth, when Myth did that white background. Speaking of which, this was a very interesting piece by Myth. Edition of 8 for 10 Tezos. You might say, oh, that's pretty simple. But when you see this kind of brushwork on the side, this is, I'd say this is anything but simple. It is very carefully done. Kind of a bold work to do in its simplicity, but I'd argue pulls it off with these beautiful marks here. A nice simple color, smile while you can. Again, going for 10 Tezos and selling 6. And here is another work, Neurocolor, on base, 1781 minted. This one's a little more expensive at 001. But again, you're seeing people doing these open editions on base. Again, I think part of it is, hey, there's the hype right now and you can put a work on and make a fortune. I think there's also an airdrop narrative, I suspect. So all to say, you know, I guess that's on manifold.xyz too. So it's interesting how it's going on Manifold. Like, one of the interesting things about that is, again, this is relying purely on social media, right? It's probably your Farcaster, and I probably need to get back on Farcaster. It's just Twitter feels like too much to, but you do probably have to be on Farcaster if you're in this scene, and at least you want to make some money. So all to say, this is manifold.xyz. So this is not because the platform is promoting it. This is purely based on social media, which is pretty incredible. Again, this is kind of the digital artist dream to a certain degree. Again, international audience. You don't need to ship anything. You just have to mint it. It's quite powerful, right? And again, we're seeing all this money being made as we contrast that with Katya Kazakina's story of the art market crashing, to quote her. I mean, shocking thing for her to say. It is crashing. Sunflowers, after Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers. So this is RJ. Another pastiche here, kind of doing a double pastiche, I'd say, doing a pastiche of Van Gogh's Sunflowers, very famous work there, I believe in the National Gallery in London, and also doing a kind of pastiche of Xcopy Colors, right-click Save As, so kind of another kind of homage of sorts here, I would argue, to Xcopy in the colors and in the noise here. So that's an edition of 15, selling for 5 Tezos each, 2 gone, continuing that series. I think this is Sui Soichi. She's awesome, but you're killing her with your narratives. I thought just an interesting piece here. It would be interesting to see this noise animated, sort of similar to RJ. But anyway, all to say, beautiful texture here and very interesting, kind of bold piece. Interesting composition, weird eyes and everything. Just interesting piece. Here is Louis Osborne just consistently putting things out here. Edition of 10. Now, what is going on here? I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. So they're starting to sell at 30 Tezos each. So again, it's kind of looking like these are going for 40 Tezos each. Nice addition here. Life is good in the digital art world, despite it being a little slower. Again, it's all relative, right? It's all relative to what's going on out there. And actually, just in terms of content, so we see the unhappy person printing out the happy faces, spreading positivity. So always playing with the happy, sad theme there. Rio Arriba. So interesting piece here. So this is Morlacos. And I'm not sure if this is a pastiche. And here we see what looks like a houseboat here. So another cool work. It seems to go with this last series that we were seeing, which also kind of had smoke like this in the background and interesting kind of muddy, polluted water there, seemingly. And here's another one. This is a pastiche, Incorporated Gothic. So kind of playing on the American Gothic work and bringing it a modern twist, modern urban twist, we could say, counterculture twist here. And there's the Morlacos TV dish. So pretty interesting. Almost like a robot here as well by Morlacos. Pretty large file, edition of 15. And how are we doing here? Selling for 3 Tezos each. There's Kurt Hustle and Mikey Wilson picking up one. I'm going to speed through here. Jake Studios, another work with another heist work. I think we saw the preview there on Twitter. Look at this. This see-through briefcase with the image in it, the shining image in it. I love it. Heisting the JPEG. Amazing. And couple of pyramids there. Here is Flora Marquez, Adelia Rosetto Marez. So just another beautiful addition to the Fashion Beast series. Beautifully colored here. And 50 sold on primary. And here is another one. This was Ilya Barabin. Hi, buddy. Do you remember I talked about the series with cars? I'm looking for cars. I thought this was a really nice drawing. A really interesting subject matter, which looks like a car toy and the plastic surrounding it without the car inside. Just interesting and beautiful. actually. So I posted on X there. So nice piece. Here is Pomelo. This is 2 minutes 36 seconds. So we'll just play a fragment here. So cool work there. Often we see turntables. There's almost like another see-through object here, a see-through turntable, Settimo, and that is 15 Tezos, and edition of 1, still available. And here is Element Lee. As you see here, the grayscale version of this, archaeological drawing, 1850. Kind of looks almost, I was going to say like the White House, but maybe it's more like a train station. And there is a train. So more just very interesting art from Element Lee. And we have the color version here too. And I actually brought it up large. So interesting, just, like let's look closely here. Again, I think made on the phone, the works seem to be getting more ambitious, don't they? In terms of their, the scale, like the size of the work and just what's attempted to be done. It's almost a little more finished, we might say, than some of the previous works, but still kind of rough. Beautifully, beautifully done here from Element Lee. And here's Anis Abdin. Daily Art Challenge. This is number 83, Lawless. So again, always playing with nature here, and it looks like the side of a road and nature and civilization clashing in pixel art. So cool there. And here also playing with the side of a road with the frog, day 84, Astray. So again, nature being the main theme there. Here's Françoise Gamma, Quam Call 2. Another one of these really cool walking works. For some reason, the walking works with this kind of screen framed around it, just, I don't know why, but they sing like 10 times louder to me, interestingly, and I don't know why, but they're beautiful. Edition of 20 and selling for 3 Tezos each. And here is another Françoise Gamma work, kind of a wild one. It looks like it should have sound. Look at this. So just more really cool, I'd say, experimentation here from Françoise Gamma, posted on Instagram. And this was also interesting. Andre Oliveira Cebola, testing textures. So kind of reminiscent, remember what we saw with Jean Provencher with the Mona Lisa there earlier, going from kind of low resolution to high resolution. Here this disco ball is enduring a similar process. So interesting there. Here is Muji, QWERTY Contemporary Mobile. So again, kind of looking like a portable gaming system here. And just another interesting, beautifully colored work by Muji. And this is an edition of 16 and for 8 Tezos each. So works continue to move here, as they always seem to. They've never stopped since I started this program. Like buying has never stopped. Green Ginger, Synthwave Serenity. This is an edition of 20 for 2 Tezos each. And again, and let's just get this large. So interesting, they're a duo, Green Ginger here. And again, with a big triangle kind of pyramid in the middle here, almost like Vaporwave. Cool there. And here's Manidal with P1. So maybe there's some music on here or not. No, just the hand pixelated and animated. So kind of a fun work here with the cat on the laundry. And I think Manidal is also doing a kind of, and there's the cat in the laundry there, in the washing machine. Pretty hilarious, actually. That's edition of 30 for, I think, 333, but maybe only one listed. Not exactly sure how that worked. I think it was just listed, by the way. We've been looking at this artist that I found on Instagram, Arts of Win. One favorite pixel illustration of mine, just add some frames to make it lively. It looks like there's a contest here to help me fill the canvas 3 objects at a time. But I kind of love this, because what felt so kind of revolutionary about this, I was kind of almost tempted, like, should I start with this? Because it looks like a painting. It looks like the portrayal of a painting done in pixel art, but it looks convincing in its weird way that this could go above the couch in its own way, maybe in Dr. Version's, frame there. Just interesting. I mean, maybe it's a little not quite the right dimensions for Dr. Version's thing, but this looks like a painting, the way that it's done and the emptiness and everything. I would hesitate to add anything to that work. Acid Boy, 54, Chill Pill Swallowed. I think this is on Bitcoin. I'm not positive. So just a cool pixelated work here from Acid Boy, and I wonder if it's pixelated in order to keep the size down. Who knows? Just more cool work from Acid Boy, who also does landscape paintings. As the screen freezes at inopportune times there. Gogolitis, interesting piece there. This was posted on X, so almost like stained glass here. So interesting piece as Gogolitis continues to experiment in pixel art with also with just like cool animations and abstraction. Here is Silva Santus with a really cool. I think we started with Silva Santus with the horse last episode. Just another interestingly the canvas ratio, right? There's kind of another wild canvas ratio on this one. So again, keeping things interesting in GlitchROM here. And what is this called? New project. And this is an edition of Open Edition, 4 minted for Tezos 30, going for another 29 days. Here's Sean Luke with a very kind of trippy work here, Starcore, 66 frames. And again, yeah, very wild frame here. Kind of hits you off balance here. You almost can't look too closely, or you start to get lost in that one. That is 42 Tezos each, and again, 7 gone. Nice work. That was a nice one. Daniel, sorry, not Daniel, this is X2000, who I think, of course, we saw this in the community there. So another interesting work here. This is on Zora, 4 minted so far, 178 days to go. And just an interesting combination of what looks like collage of eyes and some kind of 1-bit magic. Let's just see if we can go closer there. So interesting, isn't it? Interesting combination of, it kind of looks like multimedia to a certain degree. Here's Pamela Chirone, Tia Raid. This is a raid, Pam Pam. So just having a ton of fun as usual, edition of 25. And you see the paper texture here. And an hour, I'm going to just run through the rest of this episode because it's too long. Anyway, beautiful work here from Pamela Chirone. As usual, just having a ton of fun. Here's Walk, Magic Bud. So, of course, we've been following this series closely as it continues here. Now 420 is the bid for this 1 of 1. Here is Ellie Lowe. Let's get the cool work. Cool music. Reminiscent of the other one. Ow. Very cool. VST Sense hand paint and photo scan textures, modeling, rigging, VHS and digital glitches. I'm squeezed as lemon, layering, etc. Amazing. 8 Tezos sold out. Nice work. Again, sells out for $440. Now it's $13.31 on secondary. You know, like, again, and if you just did a 2X there, I'm sure those people would sell it. So it's just interesting. Again, when we compare Proto RJ Fluxpool, just a cool one I found on Instagram here. So cool analog video glitch, just a different take with what looks like maybe a manga character, not sure. So cool there. This is a cool one by Polygon 1993, edition of 10. Not sure what these sold for. Average secondary sale price is $533. So interesting to see Polygon 1993 on Solana, on exchange.art. Beautiful work, I might add. Just great textures. So that sold out pretty quick. I think Cider posted that one. And here, Polygon 1993 giving Artie Hands the Polygon 1993 treatment. So pretty rad here too, actually, with the CryptoPunk and that beautiful color that Polygon 1993 has. Here's Kiro, I think on Kiro's own, and just another cool abstract painting here, analog video glitch painting. Super interesting. This was done in February, so maybe this was reposted. I don't remember seeing that one, though. Klaus, composition 171. So continue as we zero in on 200 with Klaus at 171. This is 21 Tezos, a 1 of 1. Here is number 170. So more cool work here. That is 21 Tezos. And here is 172 at 21 Tezos. Look at that great triangle here. So very cool work there. And here's Ex Mortal Going the Distance, kind of a wild one. So all sorts of cool video glitch work. Cool, almost like a chart here. Love that. And here is Dr. Version, Soundframe 3. Adding music. Pretty cool. And very nice music, I might add. And we have a few of them here. Beautiful color. So, super cool. Here's a purple one. Wow. Okay, I think my internet might be protesting here. 13 Tezos. Let's keep going. That's an addition of 1. So that's on Object. And here's Max Calamity. Perihelion, Fake Whales. This is on Fake Whales Art Market. Really nice one here. Pretty original. Doing the workout. Here is Psychofuturist. This is how the world works. I kind of loved this one. I thought it was hilarious. Almost like the pyramid here, and it's almost like this conspiratorial work with everything that's going on, the Matrix there, and then the round table of the secret society and everything. Just kind of a cool work, the eye at the top. Very cool work. That is edition of 10, selling out for 3 Tezos, pretty reasonably priced. Renki Miyawasaki. So continuing this red and blue series here. So pretty interesting. There, edition of 1 unlisted. And here's August Ground, 3 Limelight dunce hats, 83 cents, and a few bloodstains. So interesting piece here from August Ground, I think, posted in the community there. So interesting combination of elements. Beautiful color, by the way. Blue, red, and yellow, 3 Limelights, edition of 15, and listed at 10 Tezos. August Ground, I need to actually reach out to for a space in the coming weeks. Ruslan Vyaltsev, Intergalactic Super Turbo Racing Team. Another really interesting work by Ruslan. This very original artist here with using what looks like CGI. Ruslan Vyaltsev. So interesting. On Zora, probably. Salawaki, Tin Fish Tinder Date. So here we see some anchovies as fish, and just kind of interesting piece. And the light at the end, some sort of light. Fireworks, as they're called, Kisses, edition of 20 for 13 Tezos. Or sorry, sold out at 4 Tezos each. So Salawaki continues to do very well there. Here is Stefan Dybus. And this is on, let's see if there's volume here. No volume. This is on exchange.art on Solana. Interesting piece. So kind of reminds me of Sulkian a little bit, vaguely, and it's almost kind of psychedelic-ness. 3D animation, interesting shirt there. Cool artist. Look at this beautiful work by Okote. Finding Out the Plague is Coming. So again, playing with kind of a Caravaggio-like chiaroscuro style, but doing it with the light of phones. Beautiful work, 9 sold. And here's one by AKF Kinga Fekete, Jet Setters 2. And I think this is AI art, so interesting piece here. Digital print singular edition. So maybe selling it as a print. Look at that. Pretty cool. Must be AI art. Yeah, Stable Diffusion. There you go. So very cool. I think it's Alex is the name here. Continuing on, here's Martin Joe with a GM Bear. Got coffee. So just cool work here. Beautiful color and AI artwork. And here's Trueface with an interesting piece. Let's see what it says. The landscape in the mind, he told me. Beautiful. Pablo Radice with a beautiful AI artwork. Of course, makes their own algorithms there. And here's Juan AI. I think this was posted, just more experimental AI here. I think it was posted in the community. We looked at the other one too that Juan did. Very interesting AI artwork. Here's more experimental AI. Here's 2002. Flying Dreams, WW3W. Wild work there, 7 minted. As we go into the physical, almost. Here's Santiago with a AI artwork too. So who we started with today. An hour and 24 minutes ago. We're going to keep running here. So cool work there on object. Check this out. Van Minnen. Imminent Maniac, Still Life with My Head in a Vase. I guess it's from 2019. Oil and Linen. Look at that. Gorgeous. More of the plants. These beautiful fruits here. This is brilliant. I was tempted to start with this. This guy, Bobichik Mattia. This is from 2021. I mean, look at that. This is beautiful. I love whatever's going on here. Just painting over things, Lego. What an awesome artist. Really doing well with Instagram. Really growing. You often see, at least on my Explore page, I often see their work. Like, look at this composition. Just super cool and fun. Here's another one with shoes. It's from 2020, Running for Fun. Just like very exciting artist here. Here's another one, F New Cars We Drive in Old School, and here is an alien and Spider-Man. I mean, just a very fun painting, almost like the new humor a little bit here. GTI, Volkswagen, just new imagery, kind of meme-ish, ex amante. So very cool work there. Here's Liam Sear Budd. This is It's Not Gallery posting this, and another kind of airbrush painter with strong kind of lines here and negative space contrasting with what looks like Elmo. And here, Kevin Ford with what looks like a dog totally blurred out here. So going super airbrush style, I think. And continuing on, look at this, Moto 583. Variant things gets a bit bizarre in new surreal comic series Paranoid Gardens. This is on Dark Horse Comics. I drew the variant cover, is what it says. I drew the variant cover. So here, Moto 583 is doing pretty well. They're doing the cover for a Dark Horse comic. How cool is that? I mean, Dark Horse comic looks like they're making zines, right? I mean, just interesting. Here is Mark Belden, another large doorway from the Centreville series. Just more beautiful work here. This is 2021. Very subtle colors and materials. Here's Kanyakage Undo 2 by Volkan Diaroglu. So another interesting work here. And kind of collage looking there. Here's acrylic on paper by D. Toeko. So just a ton of interesting paintings there. Here's Camilla Perkins, Together in the English Garden. Really nicely painted there. There's so much art out right now. Philippe Genicke, Living Room in San Francisco. Again, just another beautiful painting here. No shortage of talent out there. Benjamin Garcia Art, Work in Progress. Kind of an interesting piece of JFK. Kind of reminiscent of those works by, is it Rosenquist? Who is it? All to say, I'm sure a lot of you recognize that from a pop art work. Kayla Mattis. James Rosenquist? I think it was James Rosenquist. Kayla Mattis, Are You Okay? So again, we looked at this artist, The Weaver, who has a show in Michigan at the university, at the Broad Gallery in University of Michigan. So another cool work. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, take care.